One of the things that we do as coaches at Life Pulse is we make sure not only are we growing our clients, but we're growing ourselves. So as we're on these coaching calls, we like to take time to reflect on what is it we learned while we were coaching others. It's not a cookie cutter. What we do is customize to help people overcome whatever roadblock to get from where they are to where they need to be. And because of that, a lot of the content that we create for you is learned live. So just going through, we got our LP here. If you came to Realign, you got one of these as a gift. But these are just written down notes. There's nothing special here, nothing planned. The first one is bridging the gap between good intentions and follow through. Some of the top performers that we work with, it doesn't matter how much their intentions are to do stuff. If they can't follow through, it goes nowhere. The real point that I got when we were talking was something that came out that when intention is high and follow through is low, self-trust erodes, right? So intentions are high, but follow through is low. It's hard for us to even trust ourselves. And when we work with these top performers, I'm talking huge CEOs and executives of organizations, and they're not even able to trust themselves that they're going to follow through with what they say. Their people definitely aren't either. So again, bridging the gap from good intentions to follow through. Next one was the new conversation on time on task. So new understanding of this concept of TOT, right? Wishful thinking doesn't actually amount to goals being accomplished. And we have to protect intentional time buckets. And that's what beats the random hustle, right? So TOT, time on task, making sure that we are putting the time in and being intentional about it. When we talk about time buckets, you've seen in other videos or other trainings of ours, time buckets are where we set up a certain time of the week that we do certain tasks. So when I work with clients, I'll show my calendar out 3 years from now. I know what I'm doing on Monday at 3:00. I'll look at it and it will say something like Life Pulse growth or Life Pulse maintenance or nonprofit work, right? We like to block off things. And because of those time buckets, I know where to put certain things. So for example, in this situation, time buckets are really just guesses, but your job is to be the human in the conversation, right? So we set these time buckets, but your job is to actually be the human. And what that means is you're not a slave to the schedule that we set. You're the creator, and the creation listens to the creator. And in the same situation, we're going to guess how much time we're going to have to put towards it, but we need to be able to pivot. And what I mean by pivot is we need to be able to move time around. The way I think about this, it is a lot easier for you to give back time than to find time. So if I can say in 3 years from now on June, whatever date it is, that I am going to actually be doing nonprofit work or ministry work or business growth or business maintenance work, then I don't need to be able to know exactly what task I'm doing in there. But if on that day, 3 years from now, you say, hey, can we meet? And I want to meet with you over doing that task. It's easier for me to move that time, but not remove that time. It's easier for me to move that time and than it is to actually go and find time. So time buckets and making sure we're moving time. This next one was super interesting, working with a leader, the mistake with motivation. Motivation is a really interesting topic. And we wrote a book called Motivate the Unmotivated. And when we had this coaching call and we were working through this with a client, I think there might be a new book that's going to be coming out. I'm not going to give the title, but here's the thing I realized. I asked the question is, do we need to let our people kill what they eat, which is the traditional way of bringing in a salesperson or somebody who's in a commission-based position? Do we need to let them kill what they eat, or do we need to nourish them so they can go hunt? Now, we never asked that second question. It was super powerful when we came to this realization, because traditional old school model is you come in, you kill what you eat. Okay. However, the people who were coming into this organization were highly motivated, were functioning at a very high level, but they weren't actually producing yet because it was so early. And if that individual is stuck in their mind of being kind of stubborn of, well, they got to kill what they eat, or we're going to work through it, we're literally now nourishing our people, assuming they're going to operate at a high level. And it doesn't matter how much motivation they have. If they don't have the energy to go hunt, they're not killing anything. So all that being said, that concept of motivation, I think we are mismanaging motivation. And instead, we're so focused on how do we motivate people that we don't wonder, how do we maintain motivation of those who are already motivated? So could be another book coming out. Leading through the word no, that's a weird one, right? But we were talking with a client and leading through the word no. How good are you at saying no to the right things? I have found the best leaders are not the ones who say yes to the right things, but they say no to the wrong things, right? Which I guess technically would be the right things to say no to, but they're good at saying no. And your employees will trust you more. Your team will trust you more. Your family will trust you more, knowing that you have the confidence to say no to things that deserve a no. Now, that doesn't mean you sit there and you're closed off to everything, but you're good at going, hey, that's not where we're going to focus right now. Great point. Just not where we're going to focus. It changes the entire concept. High capacity leaders, they must master the word no to have constant bandwidth and be in constant alignment with their calling, right? So if you can't say no, you're going to get pulled. You're going to overdo your bandwidth. That leads to burnout, which, if you ever worked with us, burnout's your fault. It's no one else's fault. And it also comes back to the fact that you will be out of alignment with the calling that you've been given. So you get pulled out of your calling and overwhelm yourself with too much to do because your bandwidth pulled you through it. You need to be able to say no. So practice leadership through getting good at saying no. When we work with people, this one's design systems so you don't rely on willpower. This client specifically, we were walking through how do we get people to continue at a high level of operations and a high level of output. And the problem is you can rely on good systems or rely on good people. What we teach with LifePulse is you create good systems, you develop good people, and you will have sustainable growth. And some people are like, well, that's a lot easier said than done. Not when you have systems that work that we do over and over and over and over again. The problem is are the people willing to do what's needed to become good at what they do and lean on the systems that we present? That is where we get the difference in the winners, I think, and the losers. In this concept, design systems so you don't rely on your willpower. One thing we do at LifePulse, and you've seen us do it even here, is we'll take truth, like these we're sharing, and we'll go, hey, that's worked 7, 8, 9 times. Every time I bring that up to a client or every time we put that on a video, people tend to respond appropriately to it. So let's create a systematic solution that can scale and present it to all of our clients. That's why we have over 100 different solutions that we offer because other clients needed them and we created them. Own your limitations. Don't blame it on bad timing. This was when talking about a relationship, right? Husband and wife. And what was happening is one of the spouses was coming to the other and they would say, it's just bad timing. It's bad timing to have this conversation. And in reality, the person was just tired. The person was overwhelmed. The person was overworked. The person was depleted. So what happened was this individual was putting ownership on the other person based on their bad timing. But in reality, they were just tired. This works really well, not just in marriages, but just all relationships with people, is own your limitation. Hey, I have too much on my mind right now. I can't hear your idea. Hey, I'm feeling like drained. I can't deal with this right now. Not, hey, you're bringing this to me at a bad time. Hey, you're doing that. No. You have limitations as a leader. Be aware of them. Acknowledge them. Don't put blame on someone else. It's not a bad timing issue. It's that you're tired. You haven't slept. You've been working all week, whatever it might be. I want you to also focus on this. This is a fun one. Hear your team. Don't think you have to obey them. We just did a survey for a client, a really, really big survey, a lot of really, really good information. And what I was telling them was, I want you to hear what they're saying, but don't think you have to obey. We can address it without succumbing to it. We don't have to be servants to our people in the way of their opinions guide where we go. And that's a big kicker in this. So hear your people, but don't think you have to obey them. There's a level of authority that comes in this conversation. And if you are out of alignment and you start obeying those who you're supposed to be leading, that is not servant leadership. That's just being a servant. That's actually not leadership at all. So here's how I want it to work. I want to hear everything that my people below me have to say. I want to hear it, I want to take it, and I want to value their opinion. But then I, as a leader, need to go to however I process my decisions, and I need to make the decision and not put the responsibility on the people beneath me. That is what good leaders do, and that's what we need to focus on. And then the final thing that popped up this week is the concept of rest versus recovery. Rest versus recovery. What I found is that we, as top performers, we confuse these two things. What rest is when we are actually doing it proactively. Before the work, we rest. After the work, we recover. And it's a really interesting understanding of how much I confuse rest with recovery, and more importantly, recovery with rest. If you are sleeping, recovering from a hard day, you're not resting from a hard day. You rest for, you recover from. And when that happened, it really changed my mind. Am I prepping myself to go to sleep at night in a way that is going to prepare me for the work I have to do tomorrow? Am I planning tomorrow today? And this client was resting in their opinion, but all they were doing was recovering. They would wait till their body would fail. They would then recover. They would wait for the day to be done. Then they would recover. What I'm asking you to do, if you want to be an optimal performer, is you rest for the work that is coming so that your recovery is not as needed. If you are not resting before the work, you will have to recover. And if you deplete yourself too much, it goes back to the concept that we just talked about, and you will not have the energy you need to hunt what it is you're called to hunt. So those are just some of the things that we learned this week as we were coaching. And we like to offer these to you guys just to let you know we are learning along the way. We are constant students of even what we are doing, and we are learning from our clients because the clients we work with are some of the top performers all over the world. And we can't wait to share more of these with you each and every single week with whatever coach has to be a part of. So make sure you follow, make sure you pay attention. And honestly, most importantly, make sure you take whatever knowledge you learned last week or this past week and think about it. And how do you turn it to wisdom? How do you take the knowledge, apply it in the correct way at the correct time to get the desired results? That's what it takes to be wise. And that's what we're looking to instill in people. Forget knowledge. You can Google almost anything. I want to see people become wise. We'll see you next week.